Thanks for staying with us. Now, Prince Harry and the Duchess of Sussex have received a rapturous welcome from South Africans with their 10-day royal tour of Southern Africa. They say aimed at strengthening ties with Commonwealth member countries. But not all Brits are fans of the monarch. One of them is Peter Tatchell, a well-known anti-monarchist, if one could call him that, especially from the 1970s, and human rights activist. And he joins us now via Skype. Peter, thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. It's been headline news here in South Africa, and we believe it's been making headline news, especially in the UK and in parts of the US where they love the royal family. How relevant is the royal family in the Great Britain of 2019?
Well, of course, if you look at the issue dispassionately, monarchy is not compatible with democracy. The idea that we should have a head of state who takes that role by virtue of the family they are born into, rather than on merit and moral integrity, is completely out of touch with the modern world. It is a leftover from the feudal era.
Well, if you look at what's currently happening in the UK, in your parliament, where Boris Johnson was able to suspend parliament because he wanted to make space for the Queen's speech. You know, some people said that that was an excuse. But is that, in a practical way, proving your point that the system needs to be reformed more practically to reflect the needs and indeed what a current British public looks and feels like?
Well, of course, some people are saying that the Queen is also personally culpable for the illegal suspension of Parliament because she agreed it. And frankly, she should have been under no obligation to agree an unlawful act. Now, this is why we need an elected head of state, because an elected head of state would be strictly bound by the rule of law, and if they made a mistake, they could be held accountable and, if necessary, replaced. We can't do that with the current or future monarch. They are there for life, whether they're good or bad. And let's not forget that in the 1930s, we had a head of state, King Edward, who was a sympathizer of the Nazis. It shows that the Russian roulette of choosing a head of state by the hereditary principle is fundamentally flawed.
Now, we've currently got the Duke and Duchess of Sussex, as they're called, in the country, and Meghan Markle made a very impassioned speech when they visited an NGO in the Nyanga township in Cape Town on Monday, where she said she was there as a mother, as a sister, and indeed also as a woman of colour. Many people are saying that she and Harry are very much the part of the royal family that they are using to try and remain relevant in current British society. Do you agree?
Well, that is absolutely correct. I mean, there is affection for the Queen across most sections of society. She has been there for so many decades, and she's rarely put a foot wrong. But it's true that people also see her as being quite aloof and out of touch, whereas many more people can relate to Meghan and Harry. They're much more with it, they're younger, they embrace issues of concern to young people like homelessness, women's rights, HIV prevention, and so on. And these are issues that the Queen herself has never touched with a barge pole. So, yeah, they do a good job, but then again, why should they have that privileged role and position just because they're lucky enough to be born into one particular very, very privileged family?
Indeed. Unfortunately, we're running out of time, but I can't let you go before asking your final thoughts on the passing of Robert Mugabe. Of course, many people will remember your name from the man who tried to create or to pull off a citizen's arrest on Robert Mugabe many, many years ago. In fact, I think you tried to do it twice. Your thoughts just a few weeks after he had passed on?
Well, I feel sad that a man who was a liberation hero, who helped overthrow a tyrannical white minority regime and create black majority rule, I feel sad that he turned into a despot, a persecutor of his own people. And I feel even sadder, and particularly sad, for the many victims of his regime. We should never forget that Robert Mugabe murdered more black Africans than even the evil apartheid regime in South Africa. In Matabeleland alone in the 1980s, he massacred an estimated 20,000 black Africans. That is the equivalent of a Sharpeville massacre every day for nearly 9 months. And I'm sad to say that that tyranny and that mass murder negates the many good things he previously did.
Human rights activist Peter Tatchell, we thank you so much for your time. He joins us live there via Skype.